For 10 years in the harem, I relied on my outstanding slacking skills, successfully outlasting 2 emperors, seeing the empress replaced twice, and 3 batches of newly drafted girls. The concubines who entered the palace with me are either deposed, driven mad, or mostly met an untimely death. When they mention me, they are always left speechless, saying I am the true champion of surviving this job. Later, the first became the Empress Dowager. The newly entered concubines asked me for advice on how to sit securely in the seat of power. Do you like eating vegetarian? Back when we were in the princely estate, the emperor, who was still the crown prince then, thought I was very special. Everyone thought it was because the prince was tired of delicacies and wanted something plain, which left me speechless. Those scholars insult people without using dirty words. The main wife was a daughter of a prominent noble family. The side concubine was his childhood sweetheart. The concubine was beautiful. The main wife, among all the beauties. I was the only one who was completely ordinary. My birth status was not high, and my looks were average. In the crown prince's estate, I was basically invisible. But somehow this invisible nobody was the most favored. Everyone says the Eastern Palace is more dangerous than the Imperial Palace, and what is harder than being the emperor is the crown prince, whose life is not easy. Embracing women left and right in the inner yard is not a good thing either. The side concubine's family status was no less than the main wife's. The two turned the inner courtyard upside down. One was a favored concubine and the other a noble wife. He could not afford to offend either. Therefore, the crown prince often rested in my room. He always loved to complain to me about the concubine being unreasonable and the main wife being too domineering. I obediently served him tea and pastries. He kept talking while I listened, occasionally echoing a few words. Nothing more than, "Your Highness, you are truly exhausted. You have worked too hard. What would this Eastern Palace do without you?" The crown prince's eyes would instantly well up with tears, thinking I was the only one who cared for him, while I just munched away on snacks and took out a handkerchief to wipe his tears. Watching him, I secretly felt quite disdainful. Such a grown man. "Your Highness, stop crying. My heart aches for you." This is the art of communication. I learned it from my dad. After the crown prince finished crying, he actually calmed down. He glanced at me while I was still chewing on pastries, and after a moment of silence, he finally checked out a sentence. "Never mind. Being able to eat is a blessing. What does that mean? Weren't we talking about the others?" How did the topic shift back to me? I did not want to get involved in the Eastern Palace's secret struggles, but whenever I saw the crown prince torn between the two of them, I just thought he was weak. He really should ask my dad for advice. Handling his 8 concubines at home with ease, and afterwards my mother would still feel bad for him. The reason the crown prince liked me was because of another reason. He had an unpresentable quirk. When he had a lot on his mind, he loved going to the kitchen to make some food. In the past, he would always secretly cook by himself in the middle of the night, and then throw it away later when he had me. This quirk of his finally found its most loyal soulmate, as I love eating and drinking. I ate whatever he made with great relish. He shed tears of excitement, muttering to himself, "1,000 cups are too few when drinking with a true friend." Actually, I am just simply not a picky eater. Just like this, I became the most special existence in the inner courtyard. Now it has been my time in the palace for 10 years, surviving long enough to become a harem elder. Everyone thinks I am old. The empress has been replaced 3 times. To tell the truth, my chubby son is already 12. The new favorites in the inner yard are replaced batch after batch. The positions of the 4 consorts have also changed hands several times. Only I have always been ranked at the bottom of the 4 consorts. At first, others were still a bit wary, saying my schemes were too deep. But as we grew older, they kicked me out of their inner court drama circle, saying things like, "Do not play with the old lady." Nonsense. This lady is only 28 years old this year. I have not even celebrated my 30th birthday yet. These words made me so mad. When the emperor arrived, he looked up and saw me in tears. He hurriedly asked for the reason. I was a bit annoyed. They did not even include me in their palace scheming. I want to exert myself and join the inner court drama. The emperor lowered his head and started coaxing Emmy. All right. Palace drama is too draining. With your peanut-sized brain, what could you possibly figure out? I felt so wrong. They called me an old lady. Who said that? I will go and tear her mouth off today. The emperor's mouth is full of lies, but if he is willing to coax me, I will accept it. I know clearly, though, he is just talking big. Lately, a new favorite has been making waves in the palace. Before I could figure him out, he finally remembered his real business. It turns out my brat offended his new favorite, Noble Lady Lee. He actually came to scold me. He awkwardly rubbed the tip of his nose as if recalling what he just said about venting my anger for me. I asked, "You, what do you want me to do?" The emperor was a bit tongue-tied. "Look how you have raised youngsters these past few years. Speaking of this, I get angry. EngSub is not only my flesh and blood besides. How would a simple woman like me know how to educate a child? Is it not enough that I keep him fed and clean? The emperor seemed stunned by my twisted logic. He pondered for a while and seemed to find no flaw. It is true. As a woman, what could she possibly teach a child? Therefore, he started to reflect on himself. These past few years, his energy was on the front court and in the inner yard, but just not on his child. As the saying goes, a son's lack of education is the father's fault. The child's mistake is his fault. As a father, he is indeed unqualified. Therefore, the emperor who originally came to condemn me just listened and walked away. The maid beside me was trembling while I leaned on the table in a daze. The head maid stared at me with a face full of expectation, just hoping I could come up with a master plan for the big picture. I slammed the table. Since my mouth is craving something, I still need to eat a little. Let's do some pig trotters tonight. The light in the head maid's eyes instantly died. She rolled her eyes at me and turned away. The emperor thought it over and actually figured. He seemed to strongly agree with what I said about me not being able to teach the child well. Then he began to personally educate EngSub even during secret meetings with ministers in the South Study. He would bring him along. Later, EngSub secretly sneaked back to have meals with me. I started to complain. He is not going to be the emperor anyway. Why make him so busy every day? He is just a little kid. Eating and drinking well is his proper business, and the emperor actually agreed. He yielded and let him sleep in tomorrow morning. The newly arrived palace maid looked on dumbfounded, saying, "Who says your highness does not fight for favor? We still have to look up to you." What? What nonsense are you talking about? Knowing that EngSub was kept by the emperor to be raised personally, the empress was on the verge of a breakdown. She summoned me to her palace, saying I was extremely calculating, using the guise of not competing to let the emperor raise the eldest son. Her highness stared at me with profound meaning. I truly underestimated you. While everyone else is still playing palace drama, you have already started seizing power. At that time, because I stayed up all night reading a novel, I was nodding off below. The senior maid beside me gave me a hard push. What happened? Is it time to eat? She completely lost her composure. All you know is eating. Your son day by day leads my nephew to either roast leg of lamb or climb trees. Can you not have some ambition? Just because we mother and son do not understand scheming, can we not just slack off? Although EngSub is the emperor's eldest son, he did not grow up by the emperor's side. I am clumsy by nature, and even more of an amateur at how to educate a prince. How about keeping EngSub by your side? And her highness went silent. She threw a tantrum today, also harboring this very thought. But the emperor had already tacitly agreed that I raise the child myself, so she could not forcefully snatch him away. I started to sigh. EngSub was raised by Empress Shengyuan as soon as he was born. Later, Empress Shengyuan became pregnant with a royal child and could no longer keep him by her side. So by the time he was 3 with me, his biological mother, he did not have much closeness. Afterwards, Empress Shengyuan passed away and he was raised by Empress Rong'an, but it did not last long as Empress Rong'an also. Only then did he end up back. I indeed have not raised a child much. So I just let him roam free, and after hearing this, her highness broke out in a cold sweat. Who in the palace does not know that whichever empress this eldest prince follows, that empress will suffer misfortune? Speaking of which, the eldest prince somewhat has the ability to jinx the empress. She still wants to live a few more years. Therefore, she immediately killed the thought of snatching the child, saying that having a child will mean plenty of chances in the future. Her highness stayed silent as I carefully asked if her highness the empress would keep me for a meal. She chased me out like a child. I sighed. This current empress compared to the previous ones is just so very stingy. Not long after EngSub was born, the first empress Shengyuan took the initiative to register him under her name. At that time, the emperor had not yet ascended the throne. EngSub was his first flesh and blood. As a father, he was still somewhat dedicated. Empress Shengyuan did not really love him at all, but to sit securely in her high position, she used EngSub to compete for favor. Later, there was a time EngSub had a fever and no one cared for him. It was only when the emperor went to see the child that he found out. Because of this, the emperor was furious, and for the first time got angry at his dignified main wife. Not long after, Empress Shengyuan injured her body because of a miscarriage, and soon passed away. Later, the emperor ascended the throne, and crowned a new empress, which was Empress Rong'an. The child, as usual, was raised by her side. That one had a narrow mind. Always because the emperor favored his childhood sweetheart noble consort Yu, and was exceptionally jealous, because noble consort Yu lost her child. The emperor used this as an excuse to take the eldest prince back. My son The emperor's only child at the time was tossed around between several mothers to qualify me to raise the eldest prince. The emperor broke all precedents and promoted me to Consort Liang. In this, there was more or less an intention to compensate me. When Yangxing returned to my side, he was extremely weak, reduced to skin and bones. I hugged him and cried bitterly. But this child was so good at comforting. Mother, do not cry. I said I would return to your side. Fortunately, his mother has no other skills except being very well researched in eating. In less than half a year, I raised him into a lively and happy chubby boy. After all these years of living under others' roofs, this child was exceptionally good at reading people. So my ability to survive until today was inseparable from my son's efforts. For example, currying favor with the emperor. This chubby boy finished school today and walked up to me excitedly. Mother, today in archery class, I hunted a rabbit. Let's roast it to eat later. I smacked my lips and said, sure. We have not had this in a long time. Let's roast it together. But go fetch Father Emperor quickly and show off in front of him. I will listen to you. Yangxing and I started a fire. Unfortunately, we were clumsy, filling the room with thick smoke. The fire was not even started yet, but it ended up attracting the guards. Looking at the imperial guards rushing in with water buckets, we froze. It was a huge misunderstanding. That night, the empress summoned me to her palace to kneel. Hearing the empress order the senior maids to beat me, Yangxing immediately got anxious, kicked his little legs and ran outside. I knew. This child went to fetch reinforcements to invite the emperor. The wooden paddle just hit my palms when the emperor rushed over anxiously. Stop right there, he said as he grabbed my hand, looking at it with heartache. Empress, you have gone too far. As I mentioned before, the emperor has always felt he owed me. Seeing my chubby fingers swollen so high, his face grew even darker. Facing the emperor's accusations, the empress was also somewhat speechless. She did not have much scheming and spoke straightforwardly. Your Majesty, he almost set the palace on fire and you still favor him, Empress. The emperor said, this is out of line. My son purely out of filial piety just wanted to roast a rabbit for me to taste. You should not be like this, making a fuss out of nothing and beating his mother, bullying Consort Liang to such an outrageous extent. It is my fault for not teaching Yangxing well. I glanced at Yangxing, who was hiding behind the emperor. He winked at me. In terms of flattering and acting pitiful, my son truly inherited my dad's skills. Later, the emperor carried me on his back, with Yangxing pulling on his clothes. The figures of the three of us stretched longer and longer under the setting sun, like 3 fried dough twists. The crispy fried dough twists I had the other day flashed through my mind. I could not hold it in and swallow my saliva. Yangxing was still saying, Dad, this is the first wild rabbit your son hunted. It is a pity you. Hearing this single word, Dad, directly made the 30-year-old father tremble. Feeling emotional. My good son, tomorrow Dad will take you to hunt an even bigger one. I looked at this picture of a kind father and filial son, and could not help but sigh. When it comes to manipulating the emperor, I still have a lot to learn. The emperor's feelings toward me are quite complex. He simply thinks it is hard for me to survive among a bunch of schemers, so he has more pity. Therefore, towards me and Yangxing, he gave us a lot more indulgence. The two phrases that constantly hang on his lips are, Consort Liang is just a bit greedy for food. What bad things could she do? And Yangxing is just a bit naughty. All little kids are like this. Everyone should just let it pass. In the past, everyone said the emperor spoiled our mother and son duo too much, so they saw us as a thorn in their side. A few years ago, a concubine had a miscarriage and falsely accused me of doing it. The emperor directly had her dragged away without even investigating. He sneered, saying, who would believe that? The emperor had absolutely zero expectations for my brain. I held my snacks and chimed in. That is right. I have been eating snacks in the South steady these past few days and did not bump into you guys in the harem. Slowly, when everyone engages in palace drama, they leave me out. Because if they scheme against others, the emperor turns a blind eye, but if they scheme against me, the emperor gets absolutely furious. You call me a fool who only knows how to eat. What bad things could a little kitty do? So, as time went on, I completely understood. The reason the emperor favored us so much was because he never considered Yangxing as the crown prince. And as for me, I have no maiden family to back me up, and pose absolutely no threat to the throne. The new empress made trouble for me a few times, but later she probably found it boring. She directly kicked me out and told me not to wander in front of her when I am free. I heard her whispering to her confidants, she is nothing but a fool. You guys are overthinking it. I agreed with her in my heart. Exactly. Only idiots play palace schemes. I believe The greatest skill in the world is simply laying low and surviving. The day noble consort Yu was deposed, I was in my room eating iced cheese dessert made by the new maid. When I heard the news, my brain crashed for a second. How is that possible? Noble consort Yu was the emperor's childhood sweetheart. I knew better than anyone the weight noble consort Yu held in the emperor's heart. This consort, who had been favored since the Eastern Palace days, had both looks and a powerful background relying solely on her own capabilities. During the time there was no empress, she used her tough methods to completely suppress all the concubines in the harem, making the inner courtyard turn pale at the mere mention of her name. The imperial edict to depose her was issued in the early morning. By noon I heard she was looking for me. When I arrived, she was sitting in the courtyard. With her heavy makeup removed, she still looked as beautiful as a fairy, but now there were fine lines at the corners of her eyes. She looked at me, smiled lonely, and said, "Sometimes I really envy you. You are clearly older than me, but you look much younger." I stayed silent. This noble consort always looked down on me. I do not know what spell she was under to get entangled with me today. She pushed a cup of tea in front of me, saying, "I have never made things difficult for you. I even lent you a hand when you were giving birth. I want to beg you for one thing. Can you help me take good care of my daughter? Jiaxu is a daughter she gave birth to last year. The emperor quite likes her." I bit my lip, feeling a bit troubled. I wanted to say, "A concubine seeking death is a grave crime. That implicates the entire family." I wanted to say, "The emperor in his heart," but looking at the once arrogantly unyielding noble consort Yu, whose eyes were now vacant, without a single trace of vitality, I knew clearly saying anything was useless. I tried to decline, saying I am not good at raising children. She smiled. A teardrop fell from the corner of her eye and immediately splashed into a flower of tears on the stone table. "Just raise her the way you raise Youngsing. I think Youngsing is doing great. Youngsing fears nothing." Even knowing the noble consort has a bad temper, he still always loved to come to her room for snacks. I sighed and could only agree. Noble consort Yu is very clever. Since she wanted me to raise the child, she must have made full preparations. As I walked away, I heard a mournful laugh from behind. He said he loved me, but allowed that bitch to kill my first child. Ha ha ha. Saying that I have me in my heart, but never gave me the throne of queen. He on one hand indulged my ambition, while on the other suppressing my maiden family. He used me to kill two empresses. And when it was time to close the net, he made me the scapegoat. Tell me, did he ever truly love me? I stiffened my body, controlling myself not to look back. I seemed to finally understand what the emperor said while sleeping beside me. Emperors have no heart. Now, I believe it. The heavily favored noble consort Yu died from a cup of poison wine that dark night. Everyone thought it was poison bestowed by the emperor, but I knew it was his own doing. Bringing down noble consort Yu, the empress did not look very happy either. The entire inner courtyard was completely lifeless. Since that day, the emperor never visited the inner courtyard again. I heard he fell severely ill, but did not allow any concubines to visit him. I honestly held Jiaxu and went to beg the empress. Her highness saw my insistence on adopting Jiaxu and laughed mockingly. Her mother has been completely abandoned by the emperor, and she has absolutely no maiden family left. In this life, she has no chance to turn things around at all, and you still dare to take her in. I just held the baby, kneeling before the freezing steps begging. The child is innocent. Back then, I was just like this, holding Youngsing, begging the emperor to give us a way out. It was noble consort Yu who pleaded for me. She said, "Only a biological mother can raise her own child well." And just because of those words, the emperor promoted someone of low status like me to consort Liang. The empress did not agree. She just wanted me to tell the emperor myself. Without asking for permission, I carried away noble consort Yu's daughter. A few days later, the emperor appeared before me with a cold face. "Consort Liang, are you being too sentimental?" I knew. This definitely stepped on his sore spot. Her existence constantly reminded the emperor of what he had done to noble consort Yu. I could only point to the two little children not far away. Youngsing was holding Jiaxu as she learned to walk. This little toddler who never wanted to take a single step before was now opening her arms, happily stepping towards her brother. "Your Majesty, apart from being noble consort Yu's daughter, She is also Youngxing's younger sister. Blood relations are just this magical. Look at this boy Youngxing. When has he ever been this attentive? He watched from afar for a while, then turned his head and left. The emperor had never tasted this kind of feeling. Even during his childhood, he never had it. But this time, seeing his own children so harmonious, he actually felt his heart melt a little. If in his youth, he had a mother who loved him, and a sister who warmed him, would he not have become like this? He did not know, and neither did I. The emperor seemed truly angry this time. I thought for a long time before I realized. He probably thought I crossed the line. Anyone with eyes could see. Jiaxu could not escape being disdained by him. And as a woman who survived on his favor, I should have protected myself first. But I just had to be such an idiot. Of course, I only realized this after I was forced to move out of Chinkian Palace. Haitang had been so anxious these days her mouth blistered, saying, "Your Highness, why didn't you send Jiaxu away?" I played dumb, because besides me, who else would care for her? The little maid who always loved to coax me was making baked flatbread on the side. She did not take it seriously. "Your Highness, you have always maintained an innocent and clueless persona in front of the emperor, I think. There is no need to worry. The emperor will coax himself out of his anger. How does the saying go? As long as you act up enough, even the emperor will have to accommodate you." I turned my head and thought. That maid Sun Haitang, of course, was also open-minded. On the first day we moved into Zhonghui Palace, she started planning to plant melons and some lotus flowers. The new courtyard was much bigger than before, by several times. It was just that the location was a bit remote. Ordinary concubines would not even come here. But honestly, it was indeed very suitable for me to slack off. The days that followed were quite peaceful and passed by easily. Everything else was fine, except the meals were inconsistent. Good one day, bad the next. Sometimes there were 10 dishes a day. Sometimes there were only 2 plates. It was a bit like the countryside saying of depending on the sky for food. It is just that. My sky. His mood is truly too unpredictable. 7 days later, the emperor's head eunuch secretly came to beg me. "Your Highness, just admit your fault to the emperor." How is this my fault? Isn't this just asking for trouble? This baby was not born to me and noble consort you. I raised her for him and it becomes my fault. Be that as it may, but I eventually listened to advice. I perfunctorily wrote a letter and had him hand it to the emperor, and after the emperor read it, in a short while, the meals were improved. The palace provisions became much better than before. Sometimes, beautiful pastries would also be rewarded. If I had known admitting fault was this effective, I would have admitted it long ago. Youngxing goes to the south to study during the day. At night he plays with his sister using the newly rewarded toys. He even secretly went outside the palace to catch some rare things for Jiaxu. Something that looks like a fish but not a fish, like a shrimp but not a shrimp. Bright red, with 2 intimidating large claws. It amused the little maid so much. Saying this stuff is delicious. A bunch of us gathered together, eating this delicious food, overjoyed and losing our bearings. Regarding the trouble I caused by adopting his little sister, Youngxing did not say a single word. He especially dotes on this sister, simply spoiling her to the heavens. Every day after class, the first thing he does is go home and act as a horse for his sister to ride. He said in the past noble consort Yu would often go to Empress Rong'an's place to sneak him food. She treated me very well, so I will give her daughter lots and lots of love. I want to make her the happiest child. Zhonghui Palace is quiet and deserted, not as lively as before in Chinkian Palace. But I myself do not feel anything wrong with it. Still eating well and drinking spicy as usual. The Empress called me over once. Her words inevitably carried sarcasm and mockery. "For a little brat, you lost your favor. You have suffered a huge loss now, haven't you?" I just smiled and pushed the little brat in front of the Empress, nudging her. The little brat in a milky and sweet voice said, drawing out a soft long note calling out to Her Highness, so incredibly sweet. The Empress's eyes, which were full of scheming but lacked depth, instantly became clear. Even her speech stuttered a bit. All right. What Empress Mother? Well, I cannot just take advantage of you. Yuan, go to my storehouse and fetch some toys that children like. Madam Yuan finally stomped her feet in anger, taking small, annoyed steps, and went to the storehouse, stiffly bringing out a few boxes of deep-sea pearls. She hated it so much her teeth itched, but halfway there, seeing Jiaxu smiling at her, her expression went from dark to bright, from bright to dark, changing several times before finally squeezing out a smile. Little princess, hurry and thank your empress mother. The dignified old madam actually had to speak with a pinched voice. The baby had been raised by me to be so chubby, making anyone who sees her want to pinch her, and so well-behaved. Who could look at her and not be delighted? Jiaxu happily said thank you, madam. Her Highness the Empress remained strangely silent for a long time. You and your brother are exactly the same. So good at coaxing people? I let out a sigh of relief. Carrying Jiaxu, I thanked the Empress and prepared to go to the South City to see the Emperor. The Emperor still refused to see anyone, but the rules had to be followed. So I just waited at the door. Someone provided shade, and someone fanned me. They just would not let me in. Sometimes I feel like I have gotten used to it. The new favorites in the palace have disliked me for a long time. After noble consort you died, they treated me as their #1 enemy. Normally, they would often come to my courtyard to mock me, but I could not be bothered to respond. Yes, yes, yes. Later on, they did not want to come anymore either. That feeling, how should I describe it? It is like punching a puddle of mud, and the mud splashes all over you. Only noble Lady Yi persistently came to find me every month. At first, I did not understand why, until my good son pointed out the hidden truth. The other 3 ladies in the palace who hold the rank of consort are all looking like someone who is easy to bully. After talking, he started shouting again. But he is still young. He still does not understand. Why is it that no one picks on soft persimmons? Is it that others do not want to provoke her? I was cracking melon seeds feeling a bit annoyed. So, can the sweet melon sent by noble lady still be eaten? My good son pondered. Since mother is older, you should be fine eating it. My sister and I should be careful. Why? You are being somewhat presumptuous. Noble lady Yi could not harm me. So she shifted her schemes onto Jiaxu. She knew the emperor hated Jiaxu. Even if she touched the child, the emperor would not say anything. Jiaxu was just learning to walk. The nanny often took her outside to spacious places to play. That day, because I had stomach cramps from my period, I did not follow. Who knew it would cause trouble? Noble lady used the excuse of being bumped into to punish Jiaxu and the nanny to kneel in the imperial garden. By the time the news reached me, a long time had already passed. When I rushed to the imperial garden furious, the other concubines had already formed a circle. I thought they were also here to kick me while I was down. But the vicious words they spoke were not directed at me, but at noble lady Yi. Noble lady Yi, were you not raised by parents? Such a cute child, and you actually. The ones scolding the harshest were Consort Shu and Consort Xian. The 2 of them were also very arrogant a few years ago. Later, I do not know if it was because they got older, or because noble consort you completely subdued them. The 2 of them rarely went out anymore. Noble lady Yi was scolded until she was speechless, seeing that she was outnumbered, and could not gain the upper hand. Angry, she turned around wanting to go complain to the emperor, but was kicked to the ground by the empress who rushed over. The empress was from a military family. Her strength was immense. Noble lady Yi had not even stood up clutching her stomach when Madame Yuan grabbed her hair. Noble lady Yi disregarded palace rules and offended the empress. You know you're wrong. Besides, where in the palace is there a rule that a princess needs to bow to a mere noble lady? This is truly too outrageous. Noble lady Yi is too much. I suggest grounding her in her palace, punished to copy scriptures, to pray for the emperor, and be grounded in Yangtze Palace. Everyone chimed in one after another, and immediately settled noble lady Yi's fate. I held Jiaxu, suddenly feeling lost, like pulling out my sword but finding no enemy. I felt like I should say something, but looking at the scene before me, I was so shocked I didn't know what to say. The last time the concubines were this united was probably when they worked together to bring down the empress. These people always had a strange set of principles. For example, when fighting, do not hit the face. When scolding, do not scold mothers, and do not bully motherless children. That night, Jiaxu cried miserably. The little baby was twitching even in her dreams. That scene reminded me of when Yangxing was 2 years old and was beaten with a wooden ruler by Empress Shengyuan. The little baby was pressed down in the rain, having his palms beaten by the servants, not even daring to cry out loud, while I could only watch from afar. Watching this happen, I held her hand and could not help but shed tears. The emperor arrived exactly at this moment. He gently patted my back and pulled me into his embrace. It is me. I made you and Jiaxu suffer. While sobbing, I lifted the baby's pants to show her knees. On that fair skin, there was a layer of bruises. What did she do wrong? The emperor gently stroked Jiaxu's face, looking at her features, which somewhat resembled her biological mother. A trace of heartache flashed through his eyes. Then he ordered in a deep voice, "Lead Daquan, pass my edict." Noble lady behaved inappropriately, disrespected the empress, and insulted the princess. Strip her of her title and banish her to the cold palace. This did not cause any ripples in the inner courtyard. Over these years, the emperor's favorite concubines came and went one batch after another. Even noble consort Yu, who exclusively dominated the inner courtyard for almost 10 years, had the day of being abandoned. Let alone this little noble lady who had only been favored for a year. The emperor's feelings toward Jiaxu were quite conflicted. He sent his precious daughter into Zhonghui Palace, but he rarely came to visit her. Sometimes, he would suddenly appear in the middle of the night, standing at the head of the bed, quietly observing her little face. I once, in the middle of the night, saw him drunk and acting crazy, secretly holding noble consort Yu's memorial tablet, crying and saying, "You clearly promised to stay with me for a lifetime. How could you?" After all, they were young true loves. Although he was full of calculations, how could an emperor have absolutely no true feelings? However, this bit of true feeling is nothing in the face of imperial power. I watched blankly, and finally closed the door and left. Flowers bloom and fall, and a year just passes. The inner courtyard had no gossip again. A few maids, because they looked like the former noble consort Yu, caught the emperor's eye. The next day, one was promoted to first attendant. In the following months, this first attendant gained the emperor's exclusive favor. The emperor simply treated her as the only water in the 3,000 rivers, taking only one scoop. Even to my place, he rarely came. This year, the inner courtyard added another prince. It was Consort Xian. She treasured this pregnancy extremely, barely stepping out of her doors. Fortunately, last month, she smoothly gave birth to this baby boy. But everyone's look towards me became quite weird. In the past, Youngsing was the only one everyone more or less pondered. But now, the situation has already been shaken up. The emperor is in the prime of his life. In the future, who the crown prince position will fall to? It's still hard to say, but I did not care about this at all. I even took Youngsing every day to play with the little baby. Because of this, the empress scolded me several times, saying she didn't know what on earth I was after. She said, "You are truly lacking a brain. You might be happy to go. But is Consort Xian happy to have you there? If by any chance her precious son has any mishap, she will be the first to blame you." I scratched my head. If I did not go, wouldn't they still pin the blame on me? Besides, Consort Xian invited me herself. But Her Highness was too fierce. I did not dare talk back. Seeing the empress's skill at cursing people. Sometimes she scolds me. Sometimes she scolds the currently favored consort Ro. Today, she started cursing the emperor. Men are all like this, not cherishing when they are alive and when they are gone. Now look. I still have to flatter an unpresentable thing every day, claiming to be sick and inconvenienced. Huh. What does she think the palace is? Now, she thinks she is the ultimate favorite. Hasn't she seen how noble consort you ended up? Shh. Your Highness. Stop cursing. She glanced at Jiaxu and immediately said, "Oh my. I did not mean to teach the child bad things." Not long after the emperor came to see Jiaxu, the two were playing together. The emperor snatched the baby's rattle drum and refused to give it back. Jiaxu clenched her little fists and unleashed a barrage of words on the emperor. "Bad father. Give it back to me. You big baddie." The emperor was a bit puzzled, wondering what she was muttering about. The empress also realized she caused trouble and covered her mouth, keeping silent. I touched the baby's head and said, "She is saying hello to you." He held Jiaxu, as if suddenly remembering something. Consort Ro is currently pregnant. Empress, take good care of her. Pay attention to her diet. Check everything. The empress repeatedly agreed. Who knew that at night the one who had an accident was the empress? I thought, if this matter is investigated too deeply, will it not be pinned on my head? Consort Ro is a ruthless woman. Ever since she entered the palace, she has been rising steadily. Last year, she was even exceptionally promoted to consort, paid in imperial favor. Although the late emperor left an ancestral edict that the harem must not interfere in politics, the emperor completely ignored the minister's objections. Now there are rumors in the court saying the emperor favors Consort Ro. Everyone is saying, if Consort Ro gives birth to a boy, the emperor will make him the crown prince. This was originally just a baseless rumor. People would just talk and it would pass. Who knew that not long after? The emperor actually wanted to find a residence for Yongxing outside the palace. I was also a bit stunned and forgot to manage my facial expression. Is he in that much of a hurry? Consort Ru's child is not even born yet and he wants to kick Yongxing out. I do not blame myself for thinking this way. In our dynasty, a prince leaving the palace has only 3 reasons. Getting married, going to a fiefdom, or receiving a noble title at Yongxing's age. He meets none of the 3 conditions. The emperor also did not seem to expect my blunt reaction. His hand holding the soup spoon paused. The child is not. I will consider it. You do not need to. I do not really mind. Yongxing grew up constantly shifting between different empresses since childhood. The child is quite smart. Maybe being outside the palace is better for him. It is just that. The one raising the child now is the emperor after all. If they really have to live apart, I feel the one who will be unaccustomed is someone else. Can you bear to be separated from your royal father and mother? When I was his age, I was all ready. I pretended to sigh. How could he possibly compare to you? If he has even half of your capabilities, I would be satisfied. He didn't listen to me and suddenly changed the subject. Is everyone in the palace recently saying that I am letting him leave the palace to clear the obstacles? It is not my place to comment on this. He chuckled. Actually, these past 2 years, I rarely bumped into the emperor. Most of the time it was at banquets, looking from afar. By his side there was always a figure in light green. The 2 of them were inseparable, so deeply affectionate. I was too lazy to go over and curry favor if I didn't understand the situation. The occasional times he came to my room were also for Yongxing and Jiaxu. He must be quite busy. Even the recipes for the snacks I love, he handed them over to my maid Yuexin, who loves researching food. At first, Taitom would comfort me, saying, "The emperor still has you in his heart. Look, in this palace besides the empress and consort Ro, who else gets these tribute lychees?" Seeing me stay silent, she felt a bit guilty, asking, "Should this servant go think of a way? Let's figure out how to win the emperor's heart back." I felt a bit conflicted. That wouldn't be good, right? Too troublesome. Blame me for talking too much. Yuexin sneered. Even if the sky falls, Her Highness only cares about whether there is a big pork joint today. Exactly, I turned a page of my novel and let out a sigh. Even if the heavenly emperor comes, he must eat. I guess the sound of my slurping noodles was too loud and attracted unwanted attention. Early next morning, I was summoned by the Empress Dowager. That is right. This palace actually still has an Empress Dowager. Criminal consort, wrong. Why aren't you kneeling? I kneeled, kneeling with a heart full of grievance and completely confused. Please enlighten me, Empress Dowager. What wrong did this subject commit? This was found in your palace by my people. What else do you have to say for yourself? I stared at the little doll pierced with needles on the ground, instantly feeling speechless. Isn't this just what my bestie usually talks about? The top 10 framing tactics. Piercing voodoo dolls. I was truly exasperated. After so many years, can't they come up with some new tricks? I hurriedly raised my hand, wanting to clarify for myself. Well, Your Highness, the sewing skills in my palace are not this bad. Even my words were cut off midway by the Empress, who rushed over to help, interrupting me. The Empress Dowager was also stunned on the spot. What did you say? I pointed at the little doll on the ground. 11:41 0 hours 48 minutes and 7 seconds. 679 048 to 10,751. This is made of the coarse cloth used by ordinary maids. The maids in my palace are all using the newly arrived tribute cloth, because the Emperor and the Empress gave me quite a lot. So I distributed it to everyone below. If you do not believe me, you can search. There shouldn't be a single piece of coarse cloth in my palace, and a year ago, we stopped getting fabric from the storehouse. The Empress Dowager ground her teeth in anger. In the end, she could only convict me of being extravagant, and the matter of plotting consort Ru's miscarriage was just dropped like that. Late at night, the Emperor came. He looked completely furious. Mother Empress actually dared to. I did not dare to join in his scolding. After all, she is not my mother. Are you really that easy to fool? Yelled that he wanted me to die. After hearing that I dared even less to make a sound, he came like a gust of wind and left like dropping a heavyweight secret and vanished. A few days later, Prince Ning was arrested. He had a whole pile of charges against him. Among them was one involving consort Ro, corrupting the harem. It turned out consort Ru's baby was not the Emperor's, but Prince Ning's. The Empress Dowager did all this just to give the dragon throne to the prince's son. Looking at the Emperor's stance, he probably saw through it long ago and was just waiting for them to jump into the pit. No wonder he is always angry. Sitting by my bed in the middle of the night, forcing me to listen to his palace scheming tactics, saying, "Stop sleeping. Tomorrow, if the Empress Dowager says this, you reply to her like this. And if she says that, you reply like this," and I nodded my head like garlic. After a while, I asked very honestly, "Your Majesty, are you really not sleepy?" He was speechless for a while, let out a long sigh, tucked the blanket in for me, and turned his head to leave. His back actually revealed a hint of sorrow. The day Youngsing became the crown prince, I finally saw my old dad. The two of them were simply like meeting to late. The two started flattering each other. I really could not help but sigh. These two's ability to act one way in front of people and another behind their backs. It's simply amazing. My son expressed that he would immediately move to the Eastern Palace, but also expressed concern about his old father having no one to take care of him. When my dad heard this, he immediately turned pale from fear. He glanced at me and hesitantly muttered. When Jaxu was about to get married, she also came to me crying loudly. She said, "What if her future husband?" I found it quite funny. You can seek wealth. You can also seek power. Why on earth would you seek true love, which no one wants, silly girl? But since childhood, seeing royal father and mother consort so loving, I naturally admired it. In my heart, I rubbed her head and smiled. Silly child. Dream on. I felt deeply that my education was too much of a failure, and decisively packed my daughter up and threw her out of the palace. This girl is purely too well fed and has nothing to do to actually grow a romantic brain. I let her wander outside, go take a look, and broaden her horizons. With all the countless hardships in the world, that bit of love is simply worthless. The emperor collapsed the year Youngsing turned 19. When he was about to pass away, he kept holding onto my hand tightly, saying he had let Ayu down his entire life. I held his hand and reminded him softly, "Your Majesty, don't forget, your Ayu has long been." His hand holding mine paused. He stared at me intensely for a long time before saying, "Consort Liang." He used all his remaining strength to prop himself up and moved to the desk. I even thought he had some important last words left unsaid, and leaned in closely without leaving his side. Who knew he picked up the pen and wrote rows upon rows, densely packed. In the future, when I am gone, just have people follow these recipes to make pastries for you. The ones given to you before were tricking you. Later, the first became the Empress Dowager and comfortably lived in the palace for over 20 years. Just as I was about to pass away, I suddenly sat up abruptly. No way. Is he sick in the head?